It's a big day for the whole crew at the V8 Speed Resto Shop because we just finished the long-term restoration of our 1969 Chevelle. It's always an exciting time when we finish a complete restoration here at the V8 Speed Resto Shop, and right now we are just putting the finishing touches on this cool 1969 Chevelle. And the history of this car is that it was originally born wearing Cortez silver, and it had a blue interior and a 307 V8 under the hood. And the owner drove the car for many years and put a lot of miles on it, which also kind of saw the car deteriorate. So in the late 80s, he started a restoration on the car. He put it in the family garage and started disassembling it. But like a lot of these projects, when you have a day job and a family to raise, you don't have a lot of time to dedicate to restoring the car. But he did a lot of the stuff himself, and he did a really good job of installing a pair of NOS GM quarter panels. He eventually got the body off the frame and started to restore the chassis. And that's when he realized that this car needed a little more work than he was able to handle, just because he was out of time, and he started to need more and more specialized tools and more space. So he found online the restoration of the yellow 1969 Chevelle called the SS396 that we did on V8 TV, and called us up and said, hey, I've got a 69 Chevelle and I'm wondering if you'd like to take it on as a project. So we went to his house and checked out the car and saw that he was off to a great start. So we were glad to take this project on in our shop. The first thing we did when we brought the car to the V8 Speed Resto Shop was mount the body on a fixture. This allowed us to start to attack some of the rusty floors, because the car, although it looked pretty good, the floors from basically the bottom of the firewall all the way to the trunk were rusty on the bottom side, bad enough to need replacement. The metal was thin and very brittle, but it was kind of funny because you'd look at it from the top side and it didn't look terrible, but underneath it was shot. So we got some new panels from OPGI and began the process of cutting out the trunk floor and cutting out the main cabin floor. But we had to do this without disturbing the quarter panels because those were brand new. So it was a little bit of a challenge. And our strategy was to put in a new set of inner and outer wheel tubs and then mock the trunk floor up and get everything screwed in place. And then we went and cut the main cabin floor out. We had to extend the rotted toe boards a little bit using some patch panels, and then we were able to put a solid one-piece cabin floor in and make the whole car rigid again. And from there, it came off the fixture, went on a rotisserie, it got media blasted. We painted the whole bottom side of the car with an epoxy primer, seam sealed everything, and hit it with an industrial enamel and 3M body chutes so that the whole bottom of the car was going to be protected. At that point, we put the thing back on the chassis. The owner has restored the chassis himself, did a really nice job. It's all kind of stock, but with upgraded new ball joints and bushings, bigger front sway bar, upgraded rear control arms, and he found a 373 12-bolt posi rear axle. So we put all that together, put the body back on the chassis, and started the bodywork process, which was a pretty good amount of work. This car has NOS doors and new fenders, and of course new quarter panels, but we still had to tweak everything to make it fit right. And the process was get some metal work done and then use Evercoat Quantum 1 body filler from end to end, followed by an Evercoat 4-to-1 super build sprayable polyester filler, and blocked that, and then various coats of primer and blocked all that. And eventually we got the car wet sanded and it was time to spray the color and clear. This car, although it's not a true SS car, we wanted to kind of capitalize on the look of the 69 SS396. Those cars look pretty cool. They have a stripe on the side and some SS badges. And the color of the car is called Carbon Flash Metallic. And it's a late model Chevrolet color. You can see it on new cars today. And at first glance it's black, but when you get really close to it, especially in the sunlight, you can see that it's got a lot of flake and twinkle and specks in it, and it really comes to life. So we thought that would contrast nicely against a red stripe. And we sprayed the stripe inverted, so we sprayed the red first, and then we used a factory GM assembly manual to get the exact dimensions of that stripe, and we used a digital caliper to lay that stripe out to make sure everything was nice and precise, and then sprayed the black carbon flash metallic color over everything, peeled that off to reveal the stripe, and then shot the car in clear. From there, it was a matter of spraying the rest of the parts and then going through the whole assembly process. There are some upgrades on the interior of this car. We've added a few creature comforts to this car. These original seats have been recovered with new foam and a leather seat cover, but it matches what was here originally. So it doesn't really look like anything's out of place, but when you feel the seats, they're a nice soft leather. We've also added a vintage air conditioning system, so on nice hot days you stay cool in the car. And we had the windows tinted, not super dark, but just enough to keep the glare out of the car and keep a little of that sunlight from completely frying you when you drive down the street. Of course, we use sound deadening from top to bottom, new carpeting, new door panels, new trim. We put a center console in it, a lot of restoration pieces from OPGI. We rebuilt all the gauges and polished the lenses, and we added a stereo system from Antique Auto Radio, which is pretty cool because it looks just like a stock 1969 Chevrolet radio. It even has a moving red needle, but now it's got an electronic tuner, Bluetooth capabilities, and an MP3 player. So it's a nice touch to keep it looking stock, but know that it's got a little bit more behind the scenes. Under the hood, we tried to keep that SS396 vibe going. If you look at the engine, it's a big block Chevy. It's got the aluminum intake like the SS396 had, the chrome valve covers, and of course the bright orange paint. But what you're actually looking at is about a 460 cubic inch 454. This is an early 70s block that has been overboard. It's got all new internals, a good crankshaft, a performance camshaft, higher compression, electronic ignition, and a Holley 870 carburetor. So this was built primarily to around 1970 LS6 454 specifications, which would put it, right around 450 horsepower. But it still looks kinda like a stock 396. In addition to the 454 getting rebuilt to LS6 specifications, this car has a turbo 400 transmission with a 2800 RPM stalled torque converter, and it also has a shift improvement kit installed, and it shifts firm. It's not a race car transmission. It's not going to throw your head back completely every time it shifts, but it feels nice, and that stall speed allows this thing to idle nice. But once it spools up, man, it will burn the tires all day long. We finished all the rest of the assembly, got it all buffed out, tinted the windows, put all new trim around the windows, new bumpers, new badges. We added the SS396 badges to the grille and the tail pan to give it that SS look. And then we put the car on a set of Rocket Racing 17-inch booster style wheels, which are finished in their Hyper Shot finish, which is kind of a blackish gray metallic looking finish with a polished hoop around them and a set of BFG tires. So the car is kind of stock, but kind of not. The front suspension has been lowered about an inch to give it a little bit of a rake. The back is sitting at stock ride height, so it has a little bit of an aggressive nose down stance. Originally, the SS396 had a special exhaust tip, but because this car has this 3-inch pipes on it, we couldn't get that tip in a 3-inch, so we actually just kind of trimmed those right below the bumper and make them look real clean. And once the car was together, it was time to go take it to the dyno shop and do some tuning on it. We used a chassis dyno to dial in the carburetor. We installed a fitting for a wideband oxygen sensor and ran the car and measured the air-fuel ratio and tuned this Holley carburetor to give us an optimum, it's about a 14:7 to 1 cruise air-fuel ratio. And when you accelerate, the air-fuel ratio enriches into the mid-12 to 1 ratio area. So the car's got plenty of fuel and is safe when you stand on it. It goes as lean as it can safely going down the highway, and it makes a lot of power. We didn't do any dyno pulls on this to get numbers yet because everything was brand new. We were still breaking in the engine and the turbo 400 transmission and the rear axle, but as soon as we get everything dialed in, we'll go back and do some power pulls to see what kind of power this thing makes. I can tell you that it will burn those tires all the way to the rim anytime you want to. this car is that it was a complete restoration, so just about everything is new. And I hate to say it drives like a brand new car, because it doesn't drive like today's brand new cars, but it does drive like a brand new 1969 Chevelle. You know, today's cars don't have a full frame, they don't have this type of suspension, and they certainly don't have a big block under the hood. We're real happy that we got a chance to restore this for the owner. He's a great guy, he's got a great family, we've all become good friends, and we can't wait to see him prowling the streets in this kind of street fighter 69 Chevelle. And if you want to see this car in person, it will be on display at the 2014 Muscle Car and Corvette National Show in Chicago, and we welcome you to come by and check it out. And we've got a full photo gallery of this car on our website at v8tvshow.com/69Chevelle, and there's also a complete build thread on our forum, v8tvshow.com/forum. Scroll down to the project car section and you will see the whole build story on this car. And if you go to v8speedshop.com, you can contact us about building your own version of a 69 Chevelle or any other muscle car you like. We'd like to hear from you.